Hello, today we're going to repot Willodene. Look at how pretty she's gotten. But she's in a 3.5-inch pot. She was last potted on 5/6, so it's been a little over 2 months. And now I'm going to repot her into the next size pot. So this is 3.5. Now we're going to 4-inch. And like I've said many times before, you don't want the pot to be too much larger than the plant because you want the plant to grow into the pot, but they like to be pot bound, so we're only going to go up slightly. So the first thing I need to do is, she's got her little ring on for her training, so we've got to take the ring, slip the ring off. Oops, and I already lost a leaf here, but that's okay, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the bottom row of leaves. And these are leaves that are getting old. They're not doing the plant any good. Just as you take the leaves off, kind of keep an eye on the plant, because you want the plant to still have some symmetry to it. So you see this is an old leaf here, but if you look, if you take your hand and you look at the plant without the leaf, you notice that it's not really losing much symmetry if I lose this leaf. So we'll take that off, and then we'll keep going around. And here's another leaf that's kind of old, and again I take my hand down and I look at the plant, and I notice that if I take this leaf off, again, we're not losing too much in the way of symmetry. So, and basically I just take the leaf and bend it to the side till it snaps right off. And then the last leaf I'm going to look at, again, that's getting a little on the old side, is this one here. And again, I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to look and see what it looks like without it, and see if we're still okay with the symmetry. And it looks to me like we are. It's a little iffy, but I'm thinking that it's a little too heavy on this side with the leaf and a little too light on this side without it, so I am going to take this leaf off. And here we have some leaves that we can put down. This leaf is a little too old and a little too decayed. You can see how light it's gotten. So this leaf I am not going to put down because I don't think it's going to make good strong babies. Alright, so now we have our basic plant here. And then the other thing I'm going to do is, she's got some tiny little buds in here. And we're going to take my sucker plucker and we're going to take the buds off. Because when you first repot a plant, you want the plant to adjust to its new conditions. You don't want to take energy away from the buds. You want to put energy into growing the leaves. And after it's adjusted, you can go ahead and let it bud back up. And it should bud back up pretty quickly if you want flowers, because it's got its brand new soil. When it's adjusted to its new conditions, it should be very happy and it should bud up very quickly. So then we take the pot off, and you can see just in a couple of months how root bound she's gotten. And African violets like to be root bound. When they're root bound, they tend to bud up a little bit faster. So, and see, we're going into a slightly larger pot, but if you notice the soil on top, how yellow it is, and that's fertilizer from wick watering. So what I want to do is, I want to take my fingers, I want to scrape around that, I want to get that old soil off. Then also, she's pot bound, so these roots are all knotted up, so I kind of want to loosen them a little bit. And just, you might have to, and again, she's really pot bound, so I'm going to have to tear into her, but you want to open the root system up a little bit so the roots will grow out into the new soil. So just take your fingers along the top a little bit and scrape all that old soil off. Take your hands gently around, work as much soil out as you can, and then kind of open that root ball up a little bit with your fingers. And see how I got my fingers cupped underneath, kind of tearing that pot bound root ball that's at the end, and getting some roots out so that these little roots will grow out into the new soil. Okay, and now she is all set to go into her new pot. She's got a little bit of a neck. I'm sorry, she's not all set. We're going to take our fingers and scrape the neck so the bark is off and a little bit of that green is showing, and then root will come out of that green part, and the neck will also get potted down into the pot. So now she's all set to go. I'm going to set her down and we're going to prep our pot. And I've got a wick here that I just pulled off of my spool of yarn. And it's a little bit thicker than what I normally use, but we're going into a 4-inch pot that's got a lot more soil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my water, I'll put the wick in here, and I want the wick to start off damp. So I'm going to dampen the wick, because if you put the wick in dry, it might not pull up the water, but if you put a damp wick in, it'll start immediately pulling up the water. So our wick is nice and damp, and then we have our pot, and we just run the wick. Now what I like to do is I like to run the wick all the way up to the rim and kind of hold it at the rim, and then I take my soil, and my soil is also pre-dampened, and let's see, again, hold the wick up to the top, and then put a little layer of soil at the bottom just till it covers the bottom of the pot. And then this is Marathon, and it prevents soil mealybugs and eggs from hatching. So I put a little bit of that down, and then again a little bit of soil just to cover that. So there's my base down there, and at this point the wick should kind of just stay up to the side. And then I put my plant in, and see, I've got the plants running a little bit high on the pot, so I'm going to work the roots open even a little bit more than I did, because I want the plant to set where the leaves are in here, and the leaves themselves are even with the pot. So the roots down underneath the pot, the leaves are running dead even with the pot, and they're just sitting right at the edge of the pot. And then I'm going to get a smaller spoon, and I'm just going to put my leaf up, and I'm just going to put the soil right in, dead even with the top of the pot. And this soil again is also pre-dampened, so it's damp soil and a damp wick, and this should be enough for your, when you put it on the reservoir, for the wick to start wicking water up. But if you want to make double sure, you can take your water and your turkey baster, and you can water from the top until the water comes down through the pot and kind of drips off the wick. Again, I don't find that I necessarily have to do this, because my water, my soil is damp and my wick is damp. But if you want to make sure, and there it goes. And now you know that your wick will work. And then you just take your plant and you set it on your reservoir, and I usually just use plain water or water with a drop of Super Thrive, and I leave the plant on that for a week or two, and then I take it and I put it on regular fertilizer water. And the fertilizer water that I use for my freshly repotted plants is regular house plant fertilizer, 20-20-20, or a foliage fertilizer, because I really want my leaves to grow, and once the leaves grow out very nicely, then you'll start getting your blooms. And that's how you repot Willodene.